welcome to a slightly different edition of Rarer Hot Wheels. Now tonight we're going to have a look at 8 cars that are famous for being in the movies or on TV or for some similar reason. And they do really vary from cartoons to space cars. Yes, space cars. So let's get on with having a look at them. You've already had your teaser, so here we go. Harking back to the 1993 release of the movie Demolition Man, Mattel released a set of cars based on the concept vehicles that were used in the film. And yes, these cars were the real concept vehicles as shown by the various big 3 manufacturers. They chose these cars because they had the look of the future. First off is this Buick Wildcat. Based on the 1985 concept, it was powered by Buick's 3.8 litre V6, but in this instance tuned by McLaren to 360 brake horsepower, and it was all-wheel drive. Sadly, its 0 to 60 time was 8.4 seconds, and at a top speed, electronically limited to just 70 miles an hour. The second vehicle in this pairing is the Oldsmobile Aurora, based on the 1989 Oldsmobile tube car concept. However, the one they actually used in the film was a pre-production run of the actual car that made it into production, and it was powered by a 32-valve 4-litre V8, and it was 4 doors. This didn't so much fling them into the future as just over the hill into next week. The next pairing are from the Fast and Furious franchise. The first is Dom's 70 Roadrunner, as seen in the race in Los Angeles after Han's funeral, and this car ends up wrecked. Keen Fast fans may notice that the real movie car had huge Halliburton kidney beans on it, whereas the model has just 5-spoke alloys. The second is from the Fate of the Furious, and it's Raldo's 56 Vicky. This car was seen in the Cuban street race scenes in the early parts of the film, and sadly doesn't feature much more in the film. Strictly, these cars aren't actually Hot Wheels, but they're made by Mattel, so that's close enough for me. Next, we blast off into space with a couple of ships from the Star Trek franchise, and the first of those is USS Vengeance, a 23rd century Federation Dreadnought-class starship. This was operated by Section 31, a kind of Starfleet Black Ops, and was built as a warship. It carried no markings whatsoever in order to hide its identity, and made its first appearance in the movie Into Darkness. The second ship needs no introduction, and this is the USS Enterprise. She has been captained by the likes of James T. Kirk, Archer, Picard and Pike over the years. Pike is my favourite captain of the lot. And this Hot Wheels one depicts NCC 1701, which was the first service edition after NX 1701 from Star Trek Enterprise. Now for the space cars. In March of 2018, SpaceX's Falcon Heavy launch vehicle carried Elon Musk's Tesla Roadster into space. Sat in the car was a mannequin dressed in a spacesuit, and the car's CD player was reportedly playing David Bowie's Starman on repeat. The car's been out in space for over a year now and completed one orbit around the Sun as a false solar satellite. The second space car is a completely different kettle of fish. Many of you are too young to remember the Jetsons, but the Jetsons car was inspired by the 1954 Ford concept car called the FX Atmos. It was notable for its bubble-topped canopy. The Jetsons was set in 2012. We're now in 2019 and we still don't have flying cars. The final pairing for this show takes us back to TV from the 1960s. The first of this pair is Fred and Wilma Flintstone's Flintmobile. The Flintmobile was a comedy look back at how a car may possibly have looked back in the Stone Age. Its power source was Fred's feet running on the road beneath the car through holes in the floor. And finally, we have the Brady Bunch 71 Plymouth Satellite Wagon. The comedy show started in 1969 and revolves around a large family with 6 kids, hence the huge car. I can't tell you anything more about the Brady Bunch, as it's a show I have never seen an episode of in my life.